Commander-in-Chief sitting down for his first Business Network interview since taking office, and I kicked it off with the top question on the business world's minds, his economic priorities for this year.
We are going to have tax reform at some point very soon. I think we're doing very well on health care. It's been very much misreported that we failed with health care. We haven't failed. We're negotiating, and we continue to negotiate. And we will save perhaps $900 billion. You know, if you look at the kind of numbers that we're talking about, that's all going back into the taxes. And we have to do health care first to pick up additional money so that we get great tax reform. So we're going to have a phenomenal tax reform. But I have to do health care first. I want to do it first to really do it right. Health care has been going along. You know, it's a negotiation, so I do. And it's just a negotiation, and it's going to take a little while longer. But as you're probably hearing, Congress is coming along. We have some great people at Congress. They want it to happen. We will have no Democrats, zero. That means we have to get close to 100% of the Republicans. Not an easy way to run a government. You saw that with Justice Gorsuch, which we're very proud of, but he had almost no Democrat support, even though he was central casting like the perfect Supreme Court judge. So we'll see what happens. I think we're doing very well with health care, which surprises. That's like breaking news, but they all know it. They just don't tend to write it. And after that, we're going to start on tax reform and infrastructure.
But do you have to do health care before tax reform?
Yes.
When I speak with business managers, they say tax reform is so much more impactful to moving the needle on economic growth.
They're all right, but because I'm saving a tremendous amount, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars we're saving on health care. So we're going to have a much better plan than Obamacare, which is failing. Even now, as I came in here, they're saying payments have to be made that weren't scheduled to be made on Obamacare. If you don't make them, it fails. I mean, you know, it's just a mess. Obamacare is a total mess. So we're saving tremendous amounts of money on health care when we get this done. Number one, and most importantly, actually, we're going to have great health care, and all of that saving goes into the tax. If you don't do that, you can't put any of the savings into the tax cuts and the tax reform.
How do you know you're not going to have a similar battle on the tax reform debate? Because you've got a border adjustment tax, the deductions. So who's to say that tax reform doesn't fail the way the House bill failed?
I think tax reform will be easier, but it's going to be tough. You have a lot of people out there that, you know, they have their own agendas, including a lot of supporters of different people that are in Congress. They have their own agendas. They want certain things. Tax reform is going to be tough, but it won't be as tough as health care. Health care is very, very difficult. You look at that. Look at Hillary Clinton, that failed, and you look at so many of the others, and Obamacare failed. Obamacare was just, you know, they just in the end just gave up just to get the vote. You look at what they had to do in Nebraska, where they essentially gave it away for Nebraska to get that final vote.
And we know the premiums up 116% in Arizona and across the country.
And many of the, and this is going to be a much worse year than last year for Obamacare. So Obamacare is a disaster. It's really gone. Essentially, it's gone. If Obamacare isn't bailed out almost on a monthly basis, it fails. It immediately fails. We have a great health care plan that I think will happen. And if it happens, then I go immediately to tax reform, and that will happen. That will be easier than health care.
How are you on the border adjustment tax? Have you decided?
I haven't really wanted to talk about it. I have my own feelings. I don't like the word adjustment because our country gets taken advantage of, to use a nice term, by every other country in the world. So when I hear border adjustment, adjustment means we lose. We lose. So I don't like the term border adjustment.
Any tax at the border?
Let's call it an import tax. Let's call it a reciprocal tax. You know, we have.
So it's in there. You want it in there?
We have countries, Maria, that charge us, our companies, 100% tax if they sell a motorcycle, or if they make it in America, they make it in the United States, they sell it to various countries. They sell very little because the tax is 100% in some countries. The tax is 50%, 30%, 40%. But if they make a motorcycle and they sell it back into the United States, they have no tax. Now, do you think that's fair? And do you think that's smart? So I love the idea of reciprocal. You can call it a reciprocal or a matching tax or a mirror tax. There are numerous terms. Yeah. But the reciprocal tax is very important. And you know, the funny thing is that nobody gets angry when you say reciprocal tax. When you say we're going to charge a border tax, would be a rich nation if we did it, by the way, but, you know.
It sounds even, reciprocal.
Cares. But when you say reciprocal, nobody fights you. When you say, I'm going to charge a 10% or a 20% border tax, everyone goes crazy because they like free trade. Well, they don't say that the other countries are charging you much more than that. But when you say a reciprocal tax, and I'm not saying that's what I'm doing, but there has to be a certain reciprocal nature to it. But when you say reciprocal tax, nobody can get angry. Even the other countries, if, like, they're charging you a 50% tax, you say, okay, whatever you charge, we're charging.
Like China and India.
They may not like it, but they can't get angry because they can't win that battle.
What if you have a debate, you can't get to an agreement on that? Do you prefer just cutting taxes? If you had to do one, can you do just corporate tax
well, we could
cuts?
keep trade and we could keep certain things separate. We may put it in the tax bill or we may keep it separate. We have a lot of different things. And don't forget, we're going to be bringing back as part of this, I think the number is closer to $5 trillion. You know, you've been using, you keep using it, $2.5 trillion, right? But the money, the corporate inversions, and the money over there is $2.5 trillion. So I think that money, because we've been saying that number for what, 5 years now, would you say? So I know it's much more. It's probably $5 trillion or $4 trillion. That money's coming back. We're going to charge a very small tax on that money. And the companies are going to bring that money back into the United States and do lots of good things with it. Right now, they can't bring it back. And it's not only the high tax, it's also because the bureaucracy is so horrible. I have friends that want to bring money back, even if they were willing to pay the tax, which very few people are willing. The bureaucracy, the paperwork, the work to get it in, it's not worth it.
Which is why you're rolling back through your executive orders, you're rolling back regulations. So if you had to do one, corporate tax or individual tax, what's more important if you had to do one this year?
Both. I almost think individual from my standpoint because, you know, the middle class has just been taken advantage of in this country for so many years. But in terms of jobs, I mean, I think both, but I think probably corporate. But they're going to both go hand in hand. It's not going to matter.